Mike, Warren, and members of the Kitchener-Conestoga Probus Club. It is my distinct pleasure to be with you this morning in what we used to call Zoom, and for a while it was that. Mark Zuckerberg and others are now calling it the metaverse. Change is happening now at the speed of light. The forecasts of societal changes presented this morning were identified more than a year and a half ago. Online references were subsequently found that support and refine them. Looking forward to our Q&A session after this presentation. Today, November 30th, 2021, is nearly 2 years after the first evidence of this virus was known. That was early December 2019. The forecast changes presented here are not those that have been or will be caused directly by COVID-19. They were underway before COVID-19 became a pandemic. It is the impact of the worldwide protocols that were installed to prevent the spreading of COVID-19 that have accelerated these changes. Before we get started, here's a bit about how planners see a future. Planners are trained and programmed to envision future conditions in 20 to 30-year time frames. This is the horizon investors and bankers need to amortize long-term project mortgages. We've been trained to backcast cultural, economic, environmental, and governance matters for 50 years or more, and thereby to analyze current conditions of these 4 pillars. And in the doing, to forecast most likely trends and scenarios to quantify and illustrate future conditions 20 years out. Here is a thumbnail of 2 such projects, the 650-acre Credit View community and the 750-acre project called Niagara on the Green. The Credit View community was team conceived as a multi-use residential community and proposed to the No Growth Mississauga Council when Martin Dobkin was mayor in the mid-70s. The 403 was not built, it was proposed. Lands to the west of Square One were zoned agricultural and designated industrial. We presented a 36-slide presentation to the council, arguing that Mississauga was going to be the center of the dartboard for GTA growth over the next 20 to 30 years. Traditional automotive industries, for example, were in transition and headed south. We were close. Mississauga's still growing, and it's 45 years later. In the mid-1980s, Niagara on the Green was just an idea. Some 750 acres located at the intersection of Glendale Avenue and the Queen Elizabeth Highway in Niagara on the Lake. This property was the home of the Garden City Racetrack, 2 farms, and lands owned by the St. Lawrence Seaway Authority. They were surplus lands long held for a 5th Welland Canal. It was the largest parcel of serviceable land in the Niagara region. It was zoned agricultural and designated industrial, just like Credit View. Well, now it's home to the flagship campus of Niagara College, a 27-hole golf course called Royal Niagara, a greatly expanded White Oaks Hotel, Spa, and Health Club, residential homes, of course, Bass Pro Shop, and major shopping with room to grow. Technological change is now advancing at an exponential rate, almost at the speed of light, a rate never experienced in the history of humankind. If we were to create a scale line of the history of the universe, that 15 billion years, well, it would need to be more than 7 miles long for us to be able to identify the time span of technological change. It would be like a single carat diamond at the end of the 7-mile line. I think Nikola Tesla must be smiling. We're now living in his mind, a mind that conceived of wireless transmission of voice, data, and images. He knew this was possible 120 years ago. Perhaps we have entered Tesla's metaverse. Well, that's enough of context, so let's get started. We'll start with transportation. Cars will be clad with solar receiver skins. wind turbine fans installed behind the front grills, and wheel/hub electric energy generators. All wheel-based vehicles will be electric motor powered, with virtually unlimited range due to breakthroughs in lightweight, in-motion, rechargeable batteries. Electric motors with expert batteries enabling long-distance hauling with in-transit charging will be ubiquitous and enable measurable emissions reduction. Toxic emissions from all moving vehicles will one day be more than reduced. They'll be eliminated altogether. Trains, boats, and planes will operate using electric motors, where batteries continually charge while they're in motion. Battery recharging while in motion is the key technology needed to electrify all transit, on the ground, on the water, and in the air. Well, you may have heard of 3D printing, but have you heard of 3D printed buildings? China 3D printed a 5-story apartment building in 2015, and 3D printed housing has been built and occupied in China, the Netherlands, Italy, Belgium, and the USA, not Canada yet. Our first 3D printed homes will likely be to provide small and affordable housing for migrant workers and the homeless. Bill Gates is the largest owner of farmland in the USA. He followed the advice of Warren Buffett, who sent a letter to investors in 2014 describing farmland as an investment with no downside and potentially substantial upside. You know, I'm not so sure Gates and Buffett got it right this time. Why? Vertical farming is 400% more efficient than soil-based farming, using 95% less land and 95% less water. So says an in-farm co-founder, Osnet McKellen. Vertical farming is here to stay and forecast to grow exponentially, serving customers year-round with fresh produce, grown locally, anywhere there's sunlight and water. If air pollution is not controlled, by 2030 the air will become so poisonous that it will be necessary for all of us to use an oxygen kit to breathe. Rising air pollution will also lead to premature aging. Our exposure to air toxins will increase to a great extent if pollution is not controlled. Restoring the health of the environment, the air, land, and the water, is soon to be set as the priority goal of most nations, their governments, corporations, institutions, and individuals around the world. Some scientists suggest that the first person known to live to be 150 years old may already be born, and by 2050, the life expectancy from birth for females in the United States is projected to be 90 to 95 years old or older, and for men, 80 to 85 years old or older, and these are just averages. With this forecast, many adults will need to continue working long after the age of 65 in order to pay for their ongoing living expenses. Semi-retirement will be commonplace for some, and for others, full retirement may not be experienced until age 75 or older. Homes will have indoor and outdoor exercise equipment and restful, peaceful features. Gardening will flourish. Golf, tennis, and pickleball, to name a few indoor and outdoor sports, will expand and they will flourish. Senior communities will provide office space and daily assistance for those who want to work and keep their Rolodex active. Some risked their health to gain their wealth. They will be investing their wealth in their health. The next generations will be far healthier than almost all who've gone before. During COVID, more than 40% of Canadians who had worked from an office were asked and required to work from home. Some can't wait to get back to their office, and many others don't want to ever go back. Therefore, there will be some surplus office space that will be converted to other uses, such as hotels and condo residential units. In the future, offices will be designed, built into new housing. In fact, it's being done now in apartments, single-family, and condo projects. And those rooms will be designed to double function as a hobby and crafts room or as a an additional guest bedroom. Going to the 34th floor office now and in the future is a status symbol, I guess, but not necessarily a pleasant one to travel to and from in a car or in the elevator. Some aging warehouses, no longer suited for state-of-the-art storage requirements, will be converted to open space offices, a needed departure in design from the close-knit cubicle designs of the 70s and 80s, where the intent was to get as many as possible into as small a workspace as possible. Offices of the future will need greater distancing for the employees, higher ceilings, assured clean air circulation, patio and balcony access, fresh air circulation, open lunch areas, relaxing pods, and in some cases child care services, and exercise features like ping pong, darts, and billiard tables. Retail showrooms will be virtual 3D walkthrough, multi-sensory experiences. Based on the widespread and common metaverse technologies, merging virtual, online, and in-store shopping experiences. This is part of the next tech frontier that's being explored as we speak. For example, high-tech mirrors already let shoppers try on clothes without getting undressed, just like the woman trying on clothes in this image. Some vacant large box retailers like Kmart will be demolished and replaced with medium and high-rise residential housing. Reintegrating people with their shopping experiences, just the way retail was designed and built 150 years ago in almost every town in Canada. We had residential units above ground level retail on Main Street. In Canada, about 50% of retiring boomers will need to work part-time to cover their ongoing living expenses, and travel for many will only be a dream, given the costs of travel, transportation, food, accommodation, gifts, souvenirs. The metaverse will provide opportunities to purchase virtual travel experiences with or without guides. We will be able to go virtually anywhere in the world in virtual 3D with clear and compelling audio. It will be a multi-sensory experience. And soon we will be asked to buy a virtual travel passport, something like becoming a Netflix member for about $9 or $10 a month. And we'll be sharing stories of our recent virtual trip, a trip to Mount Everest or the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, Lake Louise in British Columbia, Pond Inlet, or the Northwest Passage. The virtual vacation market is yet to be developed and may, in the long run, be more lucrative than the current vacation travel business. Leading up to the pandemic, higher education, universities, and colleges was under tension and pressure to change and focus on competencies that better prepared students for long-term learning and for the shifts coming in society and in work. Institutions will now be able to increase student count and revenue without necessarily building new brick-and-mortar facilities. By serving virtual students around the world with ever-expert apps and ever-improving software of the metaverse. Newly minted teachers will be expert in productions, presentations, and persona. Those with stage and lighting comfort, comfort with public speaking, and with acting skills, they will become some of the highest paid staff at all levels of education. Our parents and our grandparents focused on securing lifelong employment in a single and specific job. Most of us, however, have likely experienced at least 2 or more jobs in our careers, and our children may find themselves in careers that are forecast to be obsolete, now in less than a decade. They need to think about the future and start retraining for the new industries now. Our grandchildren are not necessarily certain of a career or careers they would like to pursue, but they soon will be. Some of the jobs and careers that will be in demand by the year 2050 or earlier may seem like science fiction to us. Well, they'll not seem so to our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. Many of our youth can already see through the veil of evaporating traditional jobs, and that veil hides many of the career opportunities reported here, such as computer programming, robotics, healthcare, counseling, therapy, wireless technologies, drone operations, AI, and medicine. What a magnificent world of opportunity. Telehealth services have never been more essential than right now. Other than acute emergency service, healthcare teams will be able to treat patients from a distance and securely collaborate with colleagues in real time. That is why having a reliable network and the right technology partners is and will be vital. High-speed internet is needed to deliver reliable and secure telehealth services to assure high-quality care. And Canada has embraced this infrastructure need head-on with the promise to connect 98% of Canadians to high-speed internet by 2026. I trust this is not a hollow promise. Medical treatments will be programmed for patients from a distance wherever and whenever possible. Healthcare workers will undertake at-home visitations. Doctors will be on call by being online. After all, who wants to sit in a waiting room 3 or 4 feet from strangers with an illness? Personal robots might be as commonplace in 2040 as smartphones are today. Are we ready for this? Acting as communications hub and all-round assistant. These smart devices will coordinate with humans and machines alike to facilitate both efficient productivity and timely leisure. As kitchen robots prepare family meals, robot assistants will help professionals squeeze a little more work into a typical evening. Let's try and picture this. Well, Siri, or some such name, their children's teaching robot, will help children master school subjects in less time than most parents could. I recommend you take time to seek out Boston Dynamics online in YouTube. There you will see 3 robots dancing to the song, "Do You Love Me?" Robots are attracting more attention, more investment, and have more experience than ever before. They will displace workers, they already are. We must be vigilant. Humans have often claimed the title of intelligent beings, and perhaps one day the tables may flip, and artificial intelligence will be lovingly understood as a label that applies to some human beings and organizations, given the impoverished records of human actions and decision-making throughout history. Clearly, human actions have not always been intelligent. Many have been power-lusting, brutal, sex-offending dictators. There are many who now subscribe to the notion that consciousness is ubiquitous. Panpsychism is the emergent theory that consciousness pervades the universe and is a fundamental feature of all in it, including plants, rocks, stars, electrons, protons, neutrons, and more. This doesn't mean that everything has the same level of consciousness or intelligence. It means that there may be varying levels of consciousness and intelligence, something like the odometer on your car, ranging from a very little on the left to a very lot on the right. The philosophy of Adam Smith was recorded in the book known as The Wealth of Nations, and it spurred the Industrial Revolution and a lot of decisions. It will soon be seen and understood as incomplete and indeed threatening. His theory gave no value to matters of investing in the protection of the health of society and the health of the environment. Until now, individuals, societies, companies, institutions, governments, and indeed nations have risked their health in order to gain wealth. Wealth without health is a form of prolonged suicide. The health of nations, or something very much like it, will emerge as a doctrine supported by most countries in the world by 2030. Thank you for this online opportunity to share COVID-19, Catalyst for Change. And special thanks again to Warren Stoke and Mike Johnson for the invitation and their assistance in preparing this presentation. It is time for your comments and questions. I'm pleased to stay online and try and answer them as long as needed. Sincerely, Tom Salter.